Joining us on the show now, Raymond Vickery, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, Senior Associate, Center for Strategic and International Studies, Vadvani Chair, Washington, D.C., supports Joe Biden, and Dr. Sampath Shivangi, former advisor to the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, U.S. member, Donald Trump for President Inc. supports Donald Trump. Let me first go across to Raymond Vickery. Are Democrats certain that age won't be a hurdle or be made an issue by the Republicans during the campaign?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think this is a good day for democracy. Of course, age will be trumpeted by the Trump supporters as a factor. But when you have a guy who's as old as Trump is, I mean, he's only 3.5 years younger. And if he were to be elected, he would be the oldest president in history of the United States. I don't think that's really a big factor. I would say on a personal note, I have a rooting interest in this. My 81st birthday is on Sunday. And I don't feel that I'm finished by any means.
All right.
The fact is that science has progressed enough that you can be as active and as able at 80 as you formerly could at 70. So I think Joe Biden has a track record of accomplishment, both in terms of infrastructure, in terms of recovery from the pandemic, and he certainly has stood up for truth against the lie that Trump has built his campaign on, the lie that in fact he won in 2020, which he didn't.
All right, but are we certain that this is going to be a rematch between Biden and Trump? Dr. Shivangi, are we looking at Donald Trump being the obvious choice for the Republicans, is it?
As of now, of course, he is, because he has 44% of approval rate in U.S. Compared to Biden, who has only 36% of approval rate with the Democrats. So Trump has done wonders in the sense the economy was thriving, unemployment rate was low, and the inflation was very, very low, and we did not have any international issues like Biden has got into Afghanistan, which was a fiasco. And now with Ukraine, we don't know where we are going. I think if Trump was president, I don't think we would have had a Ukraine issue at all. And Trump is promising if he becomes president, within 24 hours, we'll resolve Ukraine issue. But we have to...
Okay, Raymond Vickery, sir, Dr. Shivangi, I'll interrupt you there because you've raised foreign policy issues. Raymond Vickery, do foreign policy issues appear to be big issues during election campaigns, or will it largely be more domestic issues in nature, something like the economy or abortion rights?
Well, I think with any democracy, unless there is an actual shooting war on involving the nation, the domestic issues take precedent. That's true in India. It's true wherever you have a democracy. But I do think that on foreign policy, there is a great track record for President Biden. He's taken away this transactional thing, only what kind of a deal can I make to benefit me, which has been the Trump approach, to a more institutional and relational one. And the relations with India have never been higher. I think that we're standing together against China, and it's a good record. It's particularly important in regard to standing up for democracy, in regard to Ukraine, where he's pulled the allies together. On Afghanistan, the whole experience in Afghanistan was something that the United States has not covered itself with glory on. And this is true through 3 presidents over 20 years and $3 trillion spent. And so that is not going to be a primary factor.
All right. Dr. Shivangi, what Raymond Vickery said with regards to democracy, I want to take that thought forward with you. What the present president who's going to run for president again, Joe Biden, has said is that they're fighting for the soul of America. Does that point, make things tricky for Donald Trump? Because the insurrection issue, what happened in January 2021, immediately comes to mind.
No, I agree on some points. But see, when President Trump was president, India and US had the best relation. Who initiated the quiet relations? President Trump was instrumental in having access India, Japan, Australia, and the US. Who did that? President Trump initiated that. Of course, President Biden is continuing that. See, I'm not against Biden in any way, but still, see, the ambassador to India, it took 2 years after he became a president. I mean, where do you come across India is such an important country? How come you have an ambassador coming to India, U.S. ambassador to India, after 2 years of his presidency? It's unheard of. So many other things we can question, but I don't think President Biden has visited India or Kamala Harris, who is supposed to be.
But Dr. Shivangi, Donald Trump, as Raymond Vickery points out there, had a knack for a very transactional sort of a relationship. He also pulled away India's GSP status as well and pressured India on issues of tariff and trade, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but see, sometimes you have to give and take. It's not a one-way street. But I think he came to India, he visited India, admired India, and he was a big supporter. President Biden is somehow, I feel, Democrats are not very, very for India compared to Republicans. So compare President George W. Bush, who brought India-US civil nuclear treaty, and he's a Republican president.
Okay.
And I feel
all right. Raymond Vickery, would you want to respond to that? That Republicans are better for ties with India than the Democrats?
Well, of course they aren't. And one of the great things about U.S.-India relations, and I can tell you this from having served all the way from the Clinton administration, is that it has been bipartisan in terms of support. It's one of the few areas in which we have had across-the-board bipartisan support. And this goes back to President Clinton and his visit. It goes into the civil nuclear deal under George W. Bush. It goes through Obama and putting together the next steps in strategic partnership. And it continued with Trump, and it continued with Biden. So that's not really the issue at this point in U.S.-India relations. The question is, where do we go from here? And I believe that it is absolutely the fact that we have reached new heights in terms of an institutional relationship. You look at the defense relationship, you look at the willingness to source materials, and it's a good record.
All right. Many thanks to both of you for joining us here on this discussion. And of course, it's going to be an interesting fight that we'll see in 2024.